What's up, everyone? Just hopping on right now. How's everyone doing today? What's good? You haven't seen my lives for a long time. I've been doing them every Wednesday. I've been trying to post them on YouTube. Got your first SaaS job today, 75K OTE, remote, and they're giving me an office allowance of 500. That's awesome, man. Congrats. And a MacBook. Perfect first SaaS job. How am I doing? Pretty good. Pretty good. Busy start of the year. Had some doing account planning. I have like 2 accounts. And then I'm also being put on the Tesla account, which is kind of exciting. How do you deal with companies who are continuously hiring more salespeople when there's clearly no demand? Um, yeah, I mean, they're always going to be hiring salespeople because there's always like turnover. So, yeah, if there's no demand, it might be an issue with marketing's not generating enough leads. Have I heard of Promobox? No, haven't heard of them. New to an AE position. How to get better at running discoveries that are more conversational. Great question. So, big thing is, and I did this at first. When I first started in sales, I tended to kind of do like a slide presentation, and I would basically like talk nonstop for like 20 or 30 minutes. So the key with discoveries, I think, to make it more conversational, is don't even focus on the product at first. Spend a lot of time understanding the customer's business. Ask them a lot of questions before you even start talking about the product. Because really, people aren't buying products; they want to buy solutions. And in order to know if the solution is right or not, you need to understand what the problem is. Best advice on how to transition from ad sales to software sales. So, in general, with any transition, I recommend trying to leverage your prior experiences. So, if you want to go from ad sales to software sales, so software sales is super broad. So, I would like focus on like ad tech companies, for example. That way, you can at least leverage your prior experiences there, so you're not starting from scratch. So, that would be my advice: is focus on software companies that are within the ad space, ad tech space. Insight into job safety during our next recession. Yeah, so B2B, I mean, it depends on like the product that you're selling, but in general, software sales, salespeople, when things go south, and those will be the positions that are, usually cut first. So, but they're never gonna like fully lay off the entire sales team. So if you're if you're above like the 50% mark in terms of like overall performance on the team, then you should be in a good place. What's the best way to answer? How did you get to that number? How did you get my number at the C-suite level? You could be fairly honest, and you could say that they came up in a certain customer database. I'm usually transparent in terms of when they ask like where did you get their contact info. I'm selling commercial cleaning services. How do I switch to software sales? Yeah, so the entry level positions that you're looking for are sales development representative or business development representatives. And those are positions that a lot of them will hire people with no prior sales experience at all. So if you have even any sales experience, that's going to put you ahead of the curve. Those are the positions that you're looking for. Look at my playlist, Get Into Tech Sales. I have one specific video on there that kind of shows like what specific job title to look for on LinkedIn and the different filters. So I would recommend going down that path. You're a technical business analyst, trying to get into software sales, interview, any tips? Yeah, look at that playlist that I have. I have some interview tips too. Facts, listen more, talk less. Yep, absolutely. The best, yeah, sometimes if you say too much during a pitch or on a customer meeting, then you might end up kind of, walking yourself into or talking yourself into a corner. Instead, try to keep things open-ended. You work at AWS too. What segment are you? I'm in strategic and global accounts. What's your favorite way to open up a discovery call? Do you focus on small talk and hit agenda pretty quickly? Yeah, I like building rapport with customers. So that's typically the way that I start the call. Ideally, you should do some research about the customer and about their company in the background. So that's a good way. Best way to stand out and get interviews without a degree. Best way to stand out and get interviews for sure is going to be getting referrals. So if you can get referrals, those are going to go a long way. That's basically going to put your resume at the top of the interview stack. And you can get referrals if you don't know people within the industry. You can do that just by, you want to build a LinkedIn profile, first of all, and then identify the types of companies that you want to interview at, and then just start reaching out to individuals there. Try to find some commonalities, like maybe people that went to the same, that, you know, lived in the same state as you, came from the same city. Would banking sales be an advantage? Yep, any sales experience will definitely help. As a junior MIS major seeking a tech sales internship, any tips on getting attention to companies? Yep, so I just touched on that. Internships for sure. If you're in college, like you are there, utilize that alumni network. That's going to help. How to see salaries at RepView as a student? So right now, they don't have too much information on RepView that's visible without an account. And in order to have an account, you have to submit sales information. I think they said they're going to be adding that feature later, but as of right now, there's a very limited subset of data that you can see. So RepView here, this is like Glassdoor, but for tech sales compensation data. So, you know, Glassdoor shows you company reviews at the company level, but there are certain companies that have great sales organizations that maybe aren't as great for like engineering folks. But, you know, as a sales professional, you're interested in, you know, what's the quality of the sales organization, percentage of reps that are hitting their quota, how much is being invested in the software stack on the sales side, what are the career advancement opportunities, and that's where like RepView is really focused in on. Congrats on the recent promotion. What's the difference in your new role? It's not really too much of a difference. It's the same level. I went from a global account representative to a global account manager. I'm essentially doing the same day to day. The only thing that really changes is like who I report to for the most part. But the other big difference with my new promotion is that it does let me go to a higher level within the same role. The role that I was in before was like level 4 through level 6, and I'm currently a level 6. This one, I can go up to a level 7, I think, within this role, which is great. Where did I get this information? I got first-hand experience. I've worked at several different companies, a couple startups, currently at Amazon, and I also used to work at Google selling cloud. When you're beginning in tech sales, how much of it was about being a good salesman versus experience? So yeah, so in tech sales, software sales, being a good salesman isn't really relevant for the most part. Like a lot of like the selling techniques, for example, that you would associate with like car sales or insurance sales, they really don't matter in software sales. It's more about building trust with the customer, building rapport, understanding their business, and then actually presenting like useful solutions. So in the beginning, it's much more about how coachable are you? Are you willing to learn? Those are the important things versus like prior experience, because you're going to be learning a lot, even if you've done sales before. Ooh, lots of questions that popped up here. You have an interview tomorrow. Good luck on the interview. Applied for a DGR role, started sales club on campus. Good luck, man. Let me see. I'm gonna try to answer all of these, but sometimes the questions, the comments like randomly refresh, and then I get like a whole bunch. What's a solid base plus OTE for a new AE? So at the entry level, the sales development representative role, what I've been seeing is typically you have an OTE on target earning of like 60 to 90K. A couple people have told me they've gotten offers at like 100 and 105K, but 60 to 90 is like the normal range. And then for like a new AE, the account executive, usually you're on a 50-50 base commission split. So like a solid base for like a new AE would be like 50 to 70K, and then your OTE would be double that. How long do you stay in AE roles before moving to mid-market? Great question. So within account executive, there's different levels of this role. So you'll typically start off in small and medium business, then mid-market, and then enterprise. Typical time between those levels is like 2 to 3 years. Is L7 a director, VP? What's the TC for like that at AWS? No, L7 is definitely not director. That'd be like manager level. Director, I think, is like L9, and then like VP is even higher than that. And the total compensation for that AWS is definitely like over $1 million a year. And it's mostly stock. So at Amazon, there's actually like a base cap. You can't actually get paid more than, I think it's like 160K base. And you pretty much get close to that cap as like a level 6. And then after that, it's all additional stock. Does Amazon have entry level sales roles? Yep, it does. Can you help me get a job at AWS? You have experience? Yeah, I can definitely provide a referral. Shoot me a message. I'll give you with your resume and the job posting, and I can hook you up with a referral. Is it a red flag if they don't pay for relocation? Potentially. I mean, most legitimate companies will pay for relo. What was my first job in tech sales? My first job in tech sales was hardware. I was at National Instruments. We did test and measurement. And then from there, I went to cybersecurity. I was a sales engineer. Then I went to Google, selling Google Cloud. And then I went to Zest AI within like the fintech space. And then now I'm at Amazon Web Services. What do you think about Podium? Podium's solid. You interviewed pre-sales. Their next cohort in April. Yeah, Pre-Sales Academy, they do cohorts. So then they do it like every, I think right now they're doing like 4 cohorts per year. So they just started their January one. Yeah, the next one is April. There are for people who want to get into sales engineering roles. There's another one, pre-hired. That one's in my bio too. That they do rolling admissions because it's a mix of self-paced and instructor-led. Does consulting experience help? Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels with like consulting and software sales or tech sales. How to build a better LinkedIn presence without being cheesy, fake? Great question. And that's actually a reason why I haven't like done too much on LinkedIn, because I do feel like a lot of the posts are a bit like cheesy. Maybe not cheesy, but it's like, there's like a specific format for like LinkedIn posts, or at least like the ones that go viral. They're like, there'll be stories of like, oh, I was going in for like an interview and this homeless guy was asking me for money, and I told him no, and then it turned out that he was the actual interviewer or something like that. I don't know. But if you want to, like, honestly, if you want to build a better presence, I think, try to provide value. So like, think about like who your target audience is. This is going to really depend on like what software you're selling and what industry you're selling into, and share like relevant information in that industry. So this would be like similar to like, it falls under like social selling, and try to provide value that way. So if you're providing value, it's not going to come off as being cheesy. Why did I leave GCP? Better pay. When I joined Google, it was actually like a fairly low level 3, and they were paying me 135,000 OTE plus a 50K sign-on bonus. So it was like made 186K my first year. For my second year, it was only like a small raise, and I was on track to make like 145K. And then I got an offer from a startup, fintech startup, to join as like one of their lead sales engineers for almost 100K more. It was like 240K OTE. So it was like a no-brainer for me. Like the base was higher than my OTE base commission and stock at Google at the time. Realistically, I probably should have stayed. Maybe I was a little too quick to jump, but ended up working out. Best way to get an enterprise field sales, commercial route or inside sales? I would say the commercial route, although inside sales is a good path too. Basically, you're going to need to get to like that, like any sort of field sales. Typically, you're usually not going to go straight to like enterprise field sales. You'll start off in commercial or mid-market. Something you struggle with is my parents, friends saying tech sales will be automated away. Thoughts? No, and the reason why is, and this is why like software sales or enterprise is very different than other types of sales, is because selling software at the enterprise level to other businesses is very complex. It's not transactional. So like when you're selling technology and tools to companies, they're typically not constantly looking for other solutions. So like if you're selling like a database, for example, they already have some sort of database in place, and it's typically working, but they just don't know that there's a better solution out there. So the reason why it won't be automated away is there needs to be discovery of the opportunities in the first place, and there's really no way to automate that for the most part. There's a lot of stakeholders that are involved. Some of these like projects and initiatives can take over a year to implement. as opposed to like, car sales or something like that, where it is more transactional. That could definitely be like automated away, for example, at a certain point. Have I gone skiing lately? No, I haven't gone this season yet. I definitely need to though. I want to hit up like Tahoe. What is something you say to start off your cold email that is not "hope you are well"? Great question. So Mailshake, they're like a pretty cool emailing automation tool, kind of like SalesLoft or whatever. They have a very interesting and valuable cold emailing masterclass. And I think it's like 4 or 6 hours of material. It's completely free. So search like Mailshake cold email masterclass, and they have like a bunch of like techniques that you should definitely try out within your cold emailing campaigns. And I did a video on it, but if you just search Mailshake cold email masterclass, you can check that out. How much did I make in a year? I did a video where I broke that down. So just from like my Amazon job, I made almost 500K, and then another 250K from side businesses. But check that out. I recently posted that one. I did a breakdown there. You have a second attempt at the RRK with GCP coming up. Any advice? Okay, so second attempt. So I mean, it's good that they're giving you a second attempt. Oftentimes they won't even give a second attempt. I actually haven't heard of too many people getting a second attempt. So it depends. I'm assuming you're going for a sales role, or is it a customer engineer role? So if it's for like a customer engineer role, you definitely want to brush up on cloud architecture. But really, I think actually it's gonna your interviewer or the recruiter should provide like an interview guide. And then also if you know anyone at Google, they can kind of give you some like insider tips in terms of like the types of interview questions that they'll ask. But on the sales side, they ask just very high level cloud questions, and then a lot of them are actually going to be just like sales management type questions, like talking about complex deals. What's the most complex deal that you ran? And those sorts of questions. So best advice there is really just make sure you know all your numbers and your prior history and be able to talk to that with confidence. Thoughts on moving to management from AE role? Yeah, management, you can stay as an individual contributor for a very long time within sales. Management is definitely going to be a lot less focused on selling and more so on people management. So it really kind of depends on if you want to move away from the direct selling piece. You're still going to be doing some selling as a manager, but definitely not as much as an individual seller. But I know people will stay on the individual contributor path for like their entire careers just because they enjoy it, and potentially the earning potential is higher. It's a lot easier to get into accelerators as an individual seller versus as a manager, because you're essentially sharing your quota across an entire team. What do you have to do to get a referral for AWS SDR? Just shoot me a DM on Instagram or shoot me an email with your resume and the position, and I'll give you a referral. Do you need to know how to code? No, you don't need to know how to code. Have sales experience but not tech sales. Can't get a tech SDR job. Advice. So if you've been applying for I'd say 4 to 6 weeks and you're not getting any traction, then you probably need to work on your resume. It's just probably something is off there. You can take a look at, there's resume writing services. I've used Resume Assassin twice. She's linked in my bio. Pretty solid. Try getting referrals, and then if all else fails, then you can sign up for a program like Pre-Hired or Pre-Sales Academy. Did I provide thoughts on NetSuite? No, so some of the comments, if I didn't get it, if I didn't answer it, just type it again, because TikTok comments kind of suck. But NetSuite is a solid place to work at. What was the most unique way you scored a call with a lead? I think one of the most unique ways, I tried doing custom videos. So I forgot what the name of the service was, but there's a service where you can customize video responses. And I remember one of the customers thought that was really interesting. Another one, I didn't personally do this, but at the last company that I was at, we were selling to banks and credit unions, and one of the people on the sales team, he ended up dropping off little toy cars with his business card on it at the reception. and people thought that was interesting. Where can you find tech jobs? Mostly on LinkedIn. They're pretty much all messaged on LinkedIn. What do you recommend a new SDR to be successful? I recommend getting as much coaching and mentoring as you can. Listen to everything that your sales manager is, providing feedback on. Try to identify some successful senior sellers that you can learn from. Potentially ask them if they can be a formal mentor for you. And then also network with who your future managers are going to be as well. So if you want to go into field sales or becoming an account executive, identify who the manager would be and start networking with them as well, and make it clear that that's the path that you want to head with your career, because not every SDR actually wants to go into field sales, for example. How attainable is a consistent 500K TC in tech sales, either as a manager and IC? It depends. So like if you go to like a big place like Amazon, Google, or Microsoft, if you're at a fairly senior level, you can get to a consistent 500K, especially with like stock appreciation. So for example, if you start off at Google making with a 300K TC, after 3 years with stock growth and additional stock grants, you'll actually be at a 500K TC. So it depends on the company. But those are pretty much the only places that you'll get a consistent 500K. At like startups, for example, or smaller companies, at the enterprise level, it kind of caps out at like 300K OTE. And so any additional is going to, if you want it to be consistent, it has to come from stock. Rate your offer 150K base, 200K bonus with 2.5x multiplier, 100K RSUs. Seems very solid. What company is that at? Do you have to figure out who to call yourself, or you got a list? It depends. In some roles, you'll have a lead list of warm leads and cold leads, but usually they'll give you a list of at least companies that you should be reaching out to and targeting, and then from there, it's your job to identify who the important contacts are. Oftentimes, marketing will provide a list of specific contacts, and then and you reach out to them. Other places, there are some places where they will literally just tell you, this is your territory, you have these states, and it's up to you to identify who the companies are and the targets within those companies. So it'll vary quite a bit. I look exhausted. Yeah, it's been a bit of a long day. It's like 9:30. I was up since like 7 or 6:30. Got my workout in, so definitely this is the last thing on my day. Define at living Chicago good for your career. Would you recommend a different place? So if you have the ability to pick where you live, I would say for software sales, it's best to pick a location that is close to the headquarters of whatever company that you work at, just to maximize the amount of networking opportunities. So for example, if you're going to be doing sales at Amazon, it's probably best to be at one of the major hubs, or Seattle, Google, Sunnyvale, obviously. So New York City, San Francisco Bay Area, and then Austin. Those are probably like the top places to be in. Chicago's up there too, but it doesn't have quite as many opportunities as those other cities. Let's see. What are these other questions? How do you get started? Let's see. Where did these go? Is Vmware a solid company? Yeah, Vmware is a solid company. Starting out in tech sales, better to be a big guy at a startup or small guy at a big company? I would probably say if you're just starting out, small guy at a big company, just because you're going to have more learning opportunities. If you're a big guy at a startup, then you pretty much need to know what you need to be doing, and you're not going to be getting any additional coaching and mentoring and guidance. How much should you make salary and commission for starting as a new SDR in Los Angeles? So it's going to be 60 to 90K base plus commission. Is there sales for cybersecurity? Yep, there is. Lucrative to join startups for equity, risk versus reward. Yeah, definitely there is potential upside when joining startups. If you want to reduce the amount of risk versus reward, that ratio, you want to look for Series B and Series C startups that are funded by Tier 1 venture capital firms. That's going to significantly reduce the amount of risk that you have, and also maximize your reward and upside. What do I think about Wix? Wix is not bad. Actually, I use them to host my personal page. Their builder is pretty solid. How do you get an entry-level job without CS degree but coding experience? So different ways. Look at my playlist on my TikTok profile, how to get into tech sales or get into tech sales. I have a couple steps there. But if you have like coding experience, you might be interested in looking at pre-sales or sales engineering. That's like, it's still within software sales. It's a little bit more technical. Some companies will have you do a little bit of coding within that role, as opposed to the sales role itself has no coding at all. How common is it to leverage current stock options into a sign-on bonus at a new job? Fairly common. Although, so typically what they'll ask you is, what are you set to earn within your existing job? And that'll be a combination of your base, commission, any bonuses that you're going to get, and your stock. So if you have a significant amount of unvested shares, you can certainly negotiate that into a sign-on bonus at the new company. Sales environment, Google, AWS, which was better? So at least at the time when I was there, I would say the sales environment at Google really wasn't that great. Google's a great place, I think, for engineers, at least when I was there. It is an engineering product-focused company. Sales was kind of like an afterthought. Like when I joined, the GCP sales team was still relatively young, still a lot of like maturing to do. Like they used to outsource almost all of their sales entirely. Like it was run by contractors and temp workers. Then they started to build it out more aggressively with Thomas Kurian coming in from Oracle. He brought in a lot of like enterprise sales experience. So I've heard it's a lot better now. The AWS sales environment is super solid. Very professional. They know what they're doing. They know enterprise sales very well. So just from my personal experiences, AWS is a better environment to be a salesperson. You've been fully remote for 2 years. Do you think it's a negative early in your career? Not necessarily, although you do miss some like networking opportunities being remote versus being in person. It's, as you've seen, it's a lot harder to network and have kind of like informal conversations with people within the company if you're not there in person. It's a lot easier just to like walk up their desk, but again, people don't really have an option right now, so everyone's in the same boat, so I wouldn't think it's too big of a negative. How do you get into sales? Yeah, so a couple ways. Look at my Get Into Sales playlist. Try that out, and then you can definitely get into these entry-level roles without going through a program and a boot camp. I have tips there, resources. But if you want like a very guided experience, a hands-on experience where you have like a coach and a mentor and so on, Pre-Sales Academy and Pre-Hired, both two excellent programs listed in my bio. They take like 8 to 12 weeks. They don't charge anything until you get a job within sales, paying at least $70K. Very high placement rates. So I've had quite a few people go through those programs, and they're in software sales roles now. Starting on tech sales. Okay, we got that one. Yep. You met at IBM, but they're about 2 years. It's solid. Yeah, IBM's solid. They're investing a lot within cloud right now. I think I gotta leave this at the bottom. Okay. What's my opinion on pre-sales architects, solutions architects? So I've been a sales engineer twice. It's definitely a fun role if like you really do enjoy the technical aspects of the product, getting into the weeds with the customers. The earning potential is a little bit lower. You have a higher base, lower commission, but on the flip side, you don't have like really any quota pressure or anything. That's all going to go directly on the salesperson. Thoughts on the fintech space, specifically payments? Very bullish on it. Lots of growth there, especially there's like talk with like Web3 and so that space right now. So been seeing some crazy valuations for companies that are offering like payment layers within Web3, but anything within fintech right now is going crazy. Software sales opportunities in Raleigh, Durham. Yeah, I've seen them there too. I know Google has like a small office there. What website is that? And what does it say about Datadog? They just called me for an interview. So this is RepView. They're like Glassdoor, but for tech sales compensation data. let me see on Datadog. I think Datadog's very solid. I know a few people. I think I know two people there right now. Um, I'm pretty sure they're rated highly on RepView. So RepView is cool. It gives you like it's all user submitted data, and it's fairly recent data too. And they give you information in terms of like what's the average salaries for different roles, different segments. What's their rating for like culture and leadership. So Datadog, they have a RepView score of like 86.6, which is fairly solid. Very high on product market fit. The rating is a little low on inbound leads, opportunity flow, but everything else looks pretty good. It says like 37% of the team hits quota, which is a little bit lower than average. So definitely ask questions about like the territory that you're going to have. Is it a greenfield opportunity? Are you taking over? Investments look good. Let's see. So within within enterprise sales, on average, the OTE is 280K. Top performers are making 700K. Within mid-market, it's 125K OTE. Top performers are making 270. So, pretty middle of the road in terms of like the offerings there. SDRs, it looks like SDR is typically 70K OTE. What's the attrition at these companies? Won't quotas continue to double when they'll be unachievable? Yeah, so great question about quotas. So typically they separate new sales and existing sales. So there's like greenfield sales and there's like account management. So usually for account executives or like the main sales roles, you're only selling into new accounts. So they don't often double your quota. Oftentimes your quota stays the same, but then you're selling into like a new set of accounts, for example, every year. So the quota will be about the same. It'll be like $2 to $3 million of new business. That's a typical quota number for an account executive within enterprise sales. Traveling nomad, living. Yeah, they do have remote positions as an SDR. Pretty much all the sales positions are remote right now. Oftentimes the SDR positions will ask you to be in person in an office, but right now with COVID, Omicron, everything is pretty much remote right now. And then once you get into like the field sales levels, those roles actually are usually pretty much remote. Like you're usually working from home, and then you would do occasional travel out to a customer, and you can live anywhere as long as like you're near an airport. What does inside sales mean? Inside sales means that it's more of a junior sales position. You're still doing full cycle sales, but as opposed to field sales where you're like living in the territory, usually you're living in like a centralized hub. So like Chicago, the Bay, New York City, and you're covering territories across the US, but you're not traveling out to them to see the customer in person. Yeah, and then usually they support enterprise sales. So usually like there'll be like for a specific territory, there'll be an inside sales rep and then a field sales rep, and they work together. They have a similar or same quota in most cases, and then they kind of like divide and conquer the territory or the inside sales rep. So usually they're going to be also closing deals end to end. And what often happens is the field sales rep covers like the biggest deals within the territory, and then the field sales rep or the inside sales rep covers the smaller deals. Sales leadership. Oh, nice, Chris. Last sales position included W2 earnings of 827K. Very solid, good accelerators. How often do you answer Instagram messages? I usually try to look at them like every couple days. I'm very backlogged, so I know there's still messages from like a week ago that I'm catching up to on Instagram, so I will try to get them today and just clear out that inbox. SDR manager or AE, which has more upside in your opinion? It depends on the company. So at the very big companies like Google, Amazon, you can get very senior level as an AE. At Google, for example, you can actually get to the director level as an AE. You don't even have to go to a manager.
I don't know, but I found these results on.
I would definitely say there's much higher upside on the AE side versus an SDR manager. SDR manager, what I've seen in my experience is oftentimes people get kind of like almost like stuck at that level. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people prefer, demand generation, lead generation, and managing younger reps. So it can be very rewarding, but definitely going to have higher upside on the AE side. Are there any entry-level roles with no experience? Yes, most of them will hire people with no experience. What roles are these? These are enterprise roles. So within enterprise, at the enterprise level, 140, 150K base is very common. And then your OTE, this is how much you would earn if you had hit 100% of your target or your quota. It's usually double your base. And that's what, so like 155K base at Okta. And then if you hit 100% of your target, you're going to get another 150K on there. If you could pick between Workday and Salesforce Enterprise AE with the same pay, which would you pick? I've heard it's very close between the two. I've heard some negative things about Salesforce, so I think it's going to be, I would actually probably put more weight on your manager or who your prospective manager is going to be and which one you vibe better with versus the company itself, because Salesforce is very big. Workday is actually very big too. So I would say the bigger differentiator between the two is going to be which team, which segment are you more comfortable with, and then which manager do you think is going to be more supportive. What's my LinkedIn? Thomas Niviera, but it's linked in my bio as well. Tons of hiring right now being in tech. Yes, ton of hiring right now. Especially with people, there were a lot of people that put in their notice, for example, at the first of the year. They were waiting for their year-end bonuses to come in. Now there is a ton of openings right now that they're going to be filling. Gone to tech sales 3 years ago, just got your first AE gig, love it. Congrats. Congrats, Ian, that's awesome. Can you zoom out? Not really. So the green screens on TikTok are pretty bad, but top companies, I can read them out. Google Cloud, Big Panda, Sitecore, Auth0, MindTickle, Confluent, Workday, Datadog, BetterUp, HashiCorp, Databricks. Best pass out of SDR besides AE. So other good paths would be sales engineer or solutions architect. You can look into product marketing, product management, business development, sales operations. What experience do you have to obtain to get to the enterprise level? To get to the enterprise level, you need to show skills and experience with managing territories, managing accounts, managing large complex deals, being able to pull in multiple stakeholders, both internally and externally. Average OTE for graduates with no experience, between 60 and 90K. Realistic entry level for someone with significant documented success and non-tech outside B2B sales. So you're pretty much going to be starting at the SDR level for the most part, but if you have like that good amount of experience, you'd probably be at the upper end of the SDR range, which would be close to 100K, if not a little bit over. New entry, you don't make 100K in sales at Amazon. Yeah, I'm guessing you're probably like, new grad. Yeah, usually with new grads, it's between 60 and 90K. Currently an SDR at a big tech company for 4 months and want to move to another company. Do you stay? It's hard to say right now. I think in order to make the decision, you need to have the new offer in hand, and then you can kind of make your decision from there. If you're not happy and you're thinking about moving, definitely start interviewing. It can take a while. As you probably know, interviewing at tech companies can sometimes take like 2 or 3 months if it's one of like the really big ones. Is it hard to hit your target? And then like if you're getting like positive feedback from the interviews and then you can't seem to get an offer, I'm wondering if maybe they might be like backdooring or back channeling to reach out to like your prior sales managers or something. But definitely like leverage, like even if you don't get an offer, you should ask for additional feedback from the recruiter. Sometimes they'll give it to you and tell you specifically, what you need to do to improve for the next time around. What should you ask for in terms of base and OTE? Mid-market, AE, Austin Tech, looking for a new role. I would say 200K OTE. What about SCSE compared with AE? So I've done both. I've actually been a sales engineer twice. So at the upper levels, OTE is pretty comparable to AE, but then you're going to have a higher base, lower commission. At the very high levels, OTE will be higher on the AE side than SCSE, but it's more consistent pay versus kind of some of that up and down. Can you explain the difference between workspace sales, for example, versus longer term high spend contracts? Yeah, so the difference between those types of sales really is going to be, the big difference is like the number of stakeholders that are going to be involved. When you're looking at like high spend contracts, you're going to be usually selling at like the executive level. You're going to have to get buy-in from the executive team, and they're going to have various stakeholders involved. You'll have to get involved with like legal, procurement, IT, security, and so on. So best traits to focus on when going from SDR to AE. I think best traits to focus on is really like the core selling skills. So work on your public speaking skills, work on your writing skills, work on your time management skills. Time management is like extremely important as an AE, probably even more so as an SDR, because as an SDR, you're kind of doing similar motions for the most part every day with lead follow-up. With an AE, you have to be a lot more proactive, and you need to recognize yourself in terms of what you need to do every day. And time management is especially important as an AE because you need to look at your pipeline and you need to break up your activities on a daily basis and make sure that you're actually advancing the opportunities. Made $600K this year at Enterprise SaaS for Gartner, leading cybersecurity company. The company name is behind you. Congrats, man. Yeah, last year was a big one for cybersecurity, so not too surprised to hear that. Best way to transfer from SDR to SE. Best way to do that would be get the relevant certifications. So if you're at cloud, for example, get like the cloud architect. If you're in cybersecurity, look at like the Network Plus, CISSP certifications. Oh, lots of questions here. Worth it to move from SDR to AE if your base is the same? Yeah, definitely. You should always be looking to move from SDR to AE. Very few positions where it'd be worth staying as an SDR, because that's just like the normal career trajectory. Switching over from tech consulting to enterprise AE, a Series C startup, 300K OT. Congrats, man. Yeah, 300K is pretty normal OTE for enterprise AE. Did you update your forecast? No, I still need to update my forecast. Startup versus larger firm. If you're just starting out, I almost always recommend a larger firm, just because a lot of the startups, especially early startups, they're going to have very small sales teams. They're not going to have as much training and support and enablement. So startups are great if you know exactly what you need to do as a seller. But if you're just starting out, you're usually going to do better at a larger firm, so that way you can understand and learn the core skills, and then you can take those skills elsewhere. I know you also had startup experience. How did that help you get into AWS? Yes, the way that it helped is when I went to a startup from like this medium-sized company that I was at, I immediately started working on larger deals that were like considered enterprise deals, and they were also like fairly complex deals. So that prior selling experience was directly relevant to me getting into AWS. Have you heard of any crypto firms that have good OTE for sales? Yeah, I haven't seen too many sales openings for crypto firms. A lot of the openings have been on the engineering side, but I'd be interested to hear about them. Managed to secure an enterprise AE role at Series C startup, switching over from tech consulting. Congrats, man. A lot of parallels and carryover skills that you'll bring from consulting to being an enterprise AE. Thoughts on DocuSign? DocuSign they've got like a industry leading product, and I've heard their sales team is pretty solid too. Customer success versus AE. So two very different roles, post-sales versus pre-sales. One is, one's like a hunter role. The other one is more like along the lines of project management. So you're going to have higher upside as an AE, but potentially higher stress level. So you got to weigh those two different options there. It also just depends on what type of day-to-day do you enjoy more. Do you like pitching more? Do you like working on new business? Or do you like managing longer-term relationships with customers, upselling, keeping them happy? You're a senior marketing manager at top 5 adult company. Best way to transition to tech sales. Best way to transition, I've said this a few times, is referrals. Referrals will go a long way. So identify like what specific industry you want to go into, whether it be cloud, cybersecurity, fintechs. Come up with a list of like 20 companies that you'd really want to work for. And then go through LinkedIn, go through your network, see if you know anyone that works at those companies, see if you know anyone that's connected to people that work at those companies, and try to get those referrals because those will go a very long way. Is it easy to get out of a sales position to program manager? It depends. Some companies it's easier than others, like Google, Amazon. They both have like really good internal transfer processes, so it makes it very easy to move from one position to another as long as you've been in it for at least a year. If you're at a smaller startup, it's going to be a bit more difficult to make that big of a move in terms of job ladder. Would you take the chance of a tech startup as an AE with huge potential upside? I've done it twice, so definitely I would take that. But you need to do your due diligence when you join a startup. What's the quality of the leadership team? What's the quality of the product? Who are they funded by? Are they tier 1 VCs, or are they what stage are they at with the startup? It's going to be a very different experience joining a Series A startup versus a Series D or Series E. Would you leave if you got 60% more pay, but you only been at the current company for less than 5 months? I probably would. So don't fall for sunk cost fallacy. And also don't worry. In my experience, don't worry too much about leaving too soon. At the end of the day, a job is a business contract between you and the company. So if you don't feel like you're getting a fair deal anymore and you have a better deal on the table, I wouldn't really hesitate too much to take it. Don't get too worked up about staying at a role for a specific amount of time so it doesn't look good on your resume. As long as you don't plan on leaving this next role within 5 months or whatever, and you plan on staying there for a year or two, I would make that move. 10 years auto sales, can you get in? Yep, definitely you can get in. Sales ops and SE seems more interesting to me. Yeah, it really kind of depends on what you're interested in. I've done sales engineering. Sales engineering can be very fun. Customer success can be fun too. It just kind of depends on what you enjoy on your day-to-day. CS Stone, what question do you have? Let's see. Refer me to my company. Yeah, if you want to work at AWS, send me a message. I will do a referral for you if there's a position you want to apply for. Thoughts on supply chain SaaS sales? Seems like a relevant trend at the moment. Yeah, very relevant right now. I'm within the automotive vertical on the cloud side. There was a ton of disruption on the supply chain side. So most companies were impacted by COVID-related shortages, and as a result, they're looking at how they can update their supply chain tool stacks so that way they could avoid that issue in the future. You missed that. How hard is it to hit the target? Appreciate it. Usually they're pretty realistic. Most companies 60, 70, probably closer to 70% of reps are going to be hitting quota. And then even if you don't hit your target, you're usually going to be hitting 70 to 80% of your target anyway. You're very rarely are you going to run into a situation where you only hit 20% of your target, for example. So is MBA important? Big salary difference? Not really. I mostly got it just because I was personally interested in learning more about business. And then also I got my employer to pay for most of it as well. Is every SDR, BDR role cold calling? Not every, but usually it's a mix of cold leads and warm leads. There are a few positions I've heard from other people where they're literally working off of all inbound leads. So that's the difference. So you have inbound and outbound. So inbound would be customers that are reaching out to the company directly who want to get more information, learn more about products, set up demos. Outbounding is that would be like the cold calling. So it could be cold calling or cold emailing out to potential customers who haven't reached out to the company first. So usually you'll do a mix of both. Are there any tech companies, tech sales positions within the trucking and transportation industry? Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of there's a few software startups you can look at, like trucking tech startups, for example, and they'll show you like a list of startups within like the trucking and logistics space, and all of those companies are going to be hiring sales reps. Thoughts on SDR AE at a SaaS healthcare startup? Yeah, healthcare is a great industry to be in. Wouldn't hesitate to join there. Just applied to Samsara. Time to fix up your resume a little bit for AWS keywords. Yeah, you should definitely make little tweaks to your resume based on the position that you're applying for. A good trick is look at the job description, look at the keywords they use in the job description, and try to use those within your resume. Thoughts on job stability? Pretty stable. They're always going to be needing sales reps. There's more and more startups that are being built every day, and they're all looking for experienced reps. So the first job is the hardest one to get, but after that, you're going to have recruiters knocking on your door on a weekly basis with new opportunities. So even if you do get like laid off from your job, it's fairly easy to find another one. Do you know any Azure specialists? I think I'm connected with like two of them on TikTok. I'm drawing a blank on their names, but I know a few people at Microsoft. Yeah. Can you transfer into sales from M&A finance? Yes. Tom, so you're in the supply chain SaaS as an SDR, like you said, good market, but could take an AE job. Yep. Let's see. Let's see. What questions do I have here? Joining AWS after graduation as DGR in Seattle next fall. So excited! Your account is encouraging. That's awesome. Congrats. Yeah, it's a great place to, especially to be starting in. A lot of great training and enablement. AWS, lots of growth within this company. So you're probably in one of the best places to start off your sales career and grow your sales career. What will be your 2-year plan as a DGR new grad entering AWS? So 2-year plan definitely would be, you want to excel within like the core, skills of your role. So understand all the various metrics that you're being measured against. Start building out like an accomplishments list, like a running document in terms of all the different accomplishments that you've been doing within your role. You definitely should be doing quite a bit of networking internally within the company, reaching out to different sales managers, senior reps, trying to learn from them. And then I would say within 2 years for sure, your goal should be to get promoted to that next level. So as like a DGR, I think they all enter as like L4s for the most part. So you should be trying to get that L4 to L5 promotion. Trucking tech equals RPA. Yeah, there's a lot of like automation that's necessary within the trucking space. My parents used to have a small trucking company, and I helped out there. A lot of manual work. How do you feel about sales at Coursera? Coursera is doing a lot of things right. So they have like their entire teaching platform. So pretty much any like big company is going to have like an internal education system that they're using. So the Coursera platform is super solid. So you have 1 year of AE experience hitting quota. Is an AE role at Google AWS possible? So possible, yes. Difficult, yes. They get, as you can imagine, they get a ton of people that apply for roles at both Google and AWS. If you get a referral, that'll help your chances of actually getting in. And then also you need to look at like the type of specific AE experience you have. What product are you selling? What's your average deal size? Types of customers that you're selling into. Try to get the Cloud Practitioner certification, the AWS one. That'll help a lot. They actually they require all sales reps within AWS to get it within like their first 6 months of joining. So if you get it ahead of time, that's going to show some competency that you have. You did DoorDash sales, but wasn't very good. Some was too harsh, but left sales and building relationships. Yeah, I can imagine that's it'd be a high volume sales role doing door-to-door sales. Yeah. Yeah, solar. So I'm guessing you were doing solar. So yeah, solar. I've heard people making a lot of money within solar, but it's from what I've heard, it's definitely like a bit of a grind. So, and who knows how long the solar rush is going to last for. Do you want any remote SDR positions hiring? Yeah, pretty much all the positions are remote right now. Typically, do AEs earn more than BDEs? Typically, yeah. No vaccine, will this affect your job chances? It depends on the company. Not every company requires them. Like Amazon, they actually don't require them unless you're going to be visiting customers and going to conferences, then you have to get it. Best place to work in terms of combined metric, comp, culture, Google, Amazon, or AWS. Amazon and lost connection. These are great questions, guys. I think it's back now. What would you recommend in order to move from AWS support to AWS sales, level 4? So I would recommend start networking. So reach out to various sales managers that you would potentially be working with and start having some informal conversations there. That's going to be like the best #1 recommendation for sure if you want to move from support to sales. Where do you find the sales practitioner certification? So it's on like the AWS site. If you just search AWS Cloud Practitioner, that's where you'll find that certification. Free Code Camp actually has a free like 4-hour course that teaches you everything you need to know to pass the Cloud Practitioner certification. So I would check that out. Can you give an example of a complex deal? Yeah, so an example of a complex deal, like for example, at like the last company I was at, we sold machine learning for credit underwriting applications. So an example of a complex deal would be we were selling to a very large bank, and you're selling a platform that's underwriting a very core piece of their business, which is how they underwrite their loans. So different stakeholders that I would deal with. So as multiple C-suite executives, would deal with legal, would deal with procurement, would also deal with IT, security, the engineering team. So that would be like an example of a complex deal. Highest potential in external SDR roles as a 1-year experience as an SDR. The highest SDR roles that I've seen are like 110K. And then if you're at a place like Google or Microsoft, it could potentially be up to like 140, 150K. That would be like 110K. And then if you're at a place like Google or Microsoft, it could potentially be up to like 140, 150K. That would be like just as like an OT set quota. That's kind of it. So hopefully, sometimes what they'll do is if they raised it too much, they'll adjust it back down for the following quarter. So you can either have patience or start looking externally for other offers. Would you start your own tech company someday? Yep, that's the plan. That's where you make like the real big bucks, is if you start your own company, because then you have a good amount of equity and then you're making money with other people's money. So it's kind of like next level sales, I would say. Because actually when you start your own company within the software space, the founders and stuff, a lot of what they're doing is actually selling. They're selling the vision of the company, they're selling the product, they're pitching to investors. What's the best way to start? Best way to start is look at my Get Into Tech Sales playlist. It's on my TikTok, above the videos, beneath my bio. There's a couple playlists that I have there. Check that out. You can definitely get in. You're going to be targeting sales development representative positions. Those are the entry-level positions that don't require prior experience. I have a video showing specifically what to search for on LinkedIn. And then if you don't have any luck after like 4 to 6 weeks, then you could look at doing a boot camp like Pre-Hired or Pre-Sales Academy. Those are linked in my bio too. They're like very hands-on guided experiences that last anywhere from like 8 to 12 weeks. Teach you everything you need to know, interview prep, coaching. They have placement agreements with software companies, and you typically don't have to pay anything until you actually get a job within the space. Those can be a very good option too. So all great questions. Actually, it's a little bit over, so I'm going to be calling it here. I'm going to be posting this later on YouTube if you want to rewatch this. I have a couple of the other TikTok lives that I still need to upload as well. I'll probably get those up tomorrow. But if you have any other questions, feel free to message me on Instagram. I usually get back within a couple days just based on how many questions and responses that I get. I usually get like 20 or 30 DMs a day. But thanks for all the great questions. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm doing these every Wednesday evening, and then occasionally I'll do like a random live or so. But if you click on the bell icon within my profile, you'll get like a pop-up anytime I go on live. And I'm going to add the link to next week's live, so you can add that on your calendar and get a reminder there too. But thanks everyone. Have a great night.